It's wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
You bet. So, before we get into your work, I want to know this. 5 years ago, this pandemic was raging, and all of the different regions of the world interacted with it differently. Florida, Missouri, everywhere. But at the end of the day, we had to survive it. So, how did you get through that time period, and how has it affected the way that you live and do business today?
Yeah, that was actually a really transformative time. And I was a rare human that got to say it was actually pretty positive for me. I had already 2 years prior, I had started to do online group programs and was doing remote work. So the transition of continuing to keep my work online and reaching people in those ways, that wasn't affected. And I was in New York when the lockdown began. And I was actually on my way to Guatemala. I was going to go support a retreat center for a period of time and be one of the facilitators. And right before I could get there, the borders closed.
Wow.
So I just closed up the chapter in New York. Guatemala didn't happen. So I was kind of in that liminal space. So that was a little inconvenient.
Yeah.
I went and spent time with family in New Jersey for a few months. And then I found myself pack my life into two suitcases. And I took a leap of faith to Costa Rica. And I ended up living in Costa Rica for like a year and a half. So during the time where the world, everyone was going internal and inside, I was blessed to spend a lot of time in the jungle with a lot of like-minded, like-hearted humans and serving online. My work in the transformational space and wellness in the healing arts and mindset and support in those ways, people started to realize with that time alone, when we have a lot of time to be with ourselves and sit, we start to contemplate some different things and get to notice how we show up in dynamics. So it actually started to shine a light on the value of the work that I had put in at, 10 years of devotion at that time.
One of my pipe dreams in my life when I got done with college was that I heard there was a program where you could go to areas like Costa Rica and teach art to kids. And
Cool.
I kept looking for that. But it's wonderful how Costa Rica is kind of this wonderful oasis for people to go to kind of recharge. I remember after 9/11, I was backpacking in Europe. I was actually in the back of a water taxi in Venice, Italy, the morning of 9/11, and
Mm.
I'd have to find my way back to the States. And one of the places that I went to prior to, because I had a flight that was supposed to go from Paris to Kansas City that just evaporated. So I went to Cinque Terre, which is the poor man's Riviera. It was a town called Vernazza. And I think about it like with Costa Rica, like living in a place. And it was like as much calamity that was going on in the world and so many questions and chaos. It was kind of this old school, hippie, tranquil little village. And I'd never seen the skies above an ocean. It was like the absence of light. There was just all of these visceral things that were comforting during a time of absolute chaos in the world. It was wild.
Yeah, it's the moments of reprieve, and I think that's such the beauty of understanding the value of nature and the spaces where we can remember the simplicity. It's such like a complex ecosystem that we live in that's so divinely orchestrated and designed.
Yeah.
When we can actually take a moment to look at the intricacies at play of just sitting and looking at a tree and watching the ant move up and the perfect time of it's the ability to slow down
Yeah.
and remember, like, we're divinely a part of the plan. Like,
Yeah.
we can all like slow down a little bit and let it unfold a little bit
Yeah.
more. That's beautiful.
So there was a pianist that was from New York City. So after COVID happened, I had to decide because I had a few kids that were in school that were out. They were middle
Sure.
school. So I was like, what am I going to do? And I finally decided I'm going to do more interviews with jazz musicians. And there was one musician that literally around early April sold everything and went to Costa Rica.
Mm.
So this was a guy that was hardcore in New York City, in that urban jungle of chaos and tranquility and beauty, all that. So he's on the phone in Costa Rica, and my stepdaughter, I had because I put the interviews on speaker because they're just positive people, and it was a very weird time. So he's in Costa Rica, and he like took up surfing. You could hear the ocean, you could hear macaws in the background. She to this day she talks about that interview all the time, and it was
Mm.
like that whole idea of just kind of listening to Costa Rica in the background while we're in Kansas City and knowing this musician just kind of took a different venue. And I'm not even sure he's recording and doing jazz anymore. He may have just completely got into that world and just never came back. But anyways, I always think about Costa Rica whenever I think about that story, so it's cool.
Have you been?
I haven't. I would love to.
All right. Well, when you do, let me know. I have a detailed doc with, the landscapes of different
Yeah,
regions, and I've been a gatekeeper for many people.
I
So
love it.
happy to support you in finding your nook. The
Absolutely.
microclimates, the different communities, it's
Yep.
a beautiful space to really be able to find yourself.
I have to get there. So let me ask you this. If I was to put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds at career day and there was a kid in the back of the room that was like, hey, what do you do for a living? How do you explain what you do?
Yeah. I would say to a 12-year-old, I help you to really remember what makes your heart sing the most and what you're here to do. And I help you to stay true to that so you can live really happy and healthy.
So what did you want to be when you were 12 years old? What was your dream life?
I had two. I wanted to be a teacher and a writer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I started school, and by school I mean university, education and anthropology. And at the end of freshman year, it was like a light switch moment. It was hindsight looking, it was the start of the awakening and transformation at play. It was a light switch moment. I started a radical weight loss journey and I changed my major from education to business management. I was like, what am I doing? But everything in my being knew I'm being called to do this. I don't know why. We're just going to kind of go with this. So it was kind of funny where I still ended up being a teacher.
Yeah.
I'm just a teacher in a very different way, not in the
Uh-huh.
school system.
So take me back to where you were born and raised, and what were these foundational elements, both in home and out of the home, that were seeds that were planted that gave you this drive, gave you this vision to tap into the truth and to live this life of not only freedom, but purpose? How did all that happen?
Yeah, I'm a Jersey girl. I was born and raised in Jersey. I was there all the way through 3 years after university. Then I went up to New York City and I went and did that whole thing. From a very young age, I started having really interesting spiritual experiences. My parents recall it, can tell me way more stories. I remember the experience, but they give me more detail. I'm like, oh, I didn't realize you guys remember that. They're like, it was a long season, Kelly. We remember. Where I would wake up and I was having these experiences of Jesus Christ being in my closet. And I was talking with him and conversing, and different spiritual beings coming and me conversing with them from ages 3 to 6. So looking in hindsight, that kind of started the understanding of this connection to the spiritual realm and purpose here with a deep purpose. I think hindsight, those conversations, they were, somehow my child self was able to understand. It was kind of preparing me, reminding me, this is going to be a rough ride for a while because I did not grow up in the healthiest, easiest home to grow up in. I grew up in a lot of adversity. I did grow up in, alcohol issues in the home and toxic marriages, and my sister very cruel to me. It was, I always say, advanced healer, advanced curriculum,
Yeah.
but God always serves with a purpose. So it was a really interesting space where I genuinely loved life. So when I was out and about, loved humans, loved the experiences, connected deeply with people. From a young age, I was always the person people came and poured their heart out to, and I could give advice and wisdom where I was like, I don't know why I know this, but I do. Very old soul. And as I got a bit older in adolescence, my defense mechanism in the home was to pretend to sleep. So I got really good at being able to now know and go into these deep meditative states. So through a lot of my adolescence, I was doing deep meditation and reflection. And I started to have these awarenesses of myself, of the world, of others. And that really set the foundation of who I was. It wasn't until college where the weight loss journey, and again, I truly just started being guided. And it was just something my soul just knew to surrender.
So in the realm of coaching, when you finally find your voice and your calling, what was that moment? Was it a client? Was there some other level of divine intervention that came in? What was it that convinced you that you made the right choice changing, kind of your focus in life and finding this avenue. What was that moment for you? Was there?
Sure. Joe, I can say the moment that it started is very different from the moment I knew I made the right choice. I can say there's been moments over the years, even when things are going really well, I'm still like, is this the right choice? Because it's just a wild life I live,
Yeah.
the guidance and the moves and the changes. But I was deep into meditation 12 years ago, and I heard clear as day. First time this had happened to me that I can remember. Look up healing modalities, you're a healer. And I was like, what the bleep was that? But I was kind of scared, but I knew I needed to listen. So I pulled out
Mhm.
the laptop, Googled healing modalities, and I came across a link that had Reiki on it. And when I clicked on it, a huge wave of energy moved through my body.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, now actually what is happening? Close the laptop, try to pretend it didn't happen. 2 or 3 days later, I'm in New Jersey, Princeton, New Jersey, working at a Barnes and Noble. Okay. Like working from my laptop at a Barnes and Noble. And I'm procrastinating on Facebook, and a suggested human pops up. Again, everything in my being's like, you need to be friends with that person. I add, this is weird and bold, but I'm a weird and bold person. We need to be friends. Immediately, I love new friends. We start chatting 15, 20 minutes. He asks what I'm up to. I tell him I'm working for my satellite office, Barnes and Noble. He is walking in the doors of the exact same Barnes and Noble within 20 minutes of us talking.
Oh,
So we sit, we're having tea. And I say to this, very fit, dreaded yogi man, patchouli in the air. And I'm like, something happened a few days ago. I have not told anybody, but I feel I can tell you. So I tell him, and he just goes, guess you're ready. I said, what? I said, come on. You know the saying, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. I'm a Reiki master. So I guess I'll be your first teacher on the journey.
wow.
And we started me receiving sessions in time. I did my first, level one attunement with him. And from there, the path just began to take shape.
Wow.
And so it's always been where I'm like, I really can say I don't feel I chose this path. It chose me.
Yeah.
There's been times in the journey of building, the business where, cool, doing it part-time and doing another business, or times where it's just like, I'm just gonna try to walk from it. I don't know if I believe in free will. Like this is what I'm here to do. This is what supports people and the transformations that, occur through me holding a space for people to do their own work. I don't believe I do anything. I hold the space for people to do their own healing and work. Um, is what's here to be done.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, on that path of transformation and change, it requires risk. What's the biggest risk that you've taken in your life?
Oh, there's been many. I'd say one was the packing my life into 2 suitcases and just leaping to Costa Rica. For many reasons, it was a season of a lot of turbulence with the family that was still very deep in their own dynamics, and we were entangled in our own complicated dynamics. I didn't tell anyone I went. I just leapt
Yeah.
and just went. I've done a lot of solo traveling on a risk, but I can say it always pays off. If anyone's feeling the call to go take a solo trip, just travel's never a bad life decision.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
So, who's been that inspirational force in your life that's allowed you to navigate and evolve to this place of purpose and knowing where you belong?
Yeah, thank goodness for mentors and teachers. And I've had several teachers. Most of my 20s, I spent traveling around the world, sitting with different Indigenous elders, spiritual leaders of different lineages, and teachers and mentors in those spaces. It just, I swear, sometimes they just find me out in the wild. I'm like Starbucks trying to get a coffee, and like an Indigenous elder comes and is like, I'm taking you under my wing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm just trying to get a matcha,
Yeah.
but the closest of the last 5 years has been an Indigenous grandmother who's located in New Mexico. I met her at a gathering upstate New York, and immediately as we started doing some deep work together, I knew in my heart that this was the next teacher. I had grown and advanced so much in my own skill set and my sensitivities, but I didn't know what to do with it. I was like, I had hit that point where I was like, I know I need a new teacher who can meet me and be way past where I am to help me grow into that. Um, And so she has been phenomenal. And I've had amazing business mentors to help build at the same time. One step in the spiritual, one step in the physical.
With writing, what was the book? What was the first book or the story that really captivated you that made you either want to write or read more?
Mm, I can recall one of my favorite books as a child, which I think is so interesting, where they say you can also like often tell a lot about someone's life and like their childhood and what they were moving through by what was like their favorite book as a
Yeah.
kid.
Yeah.
One of my favorite books was Ella Enchanted. And I think they like made a movie of it in
Uh-huh.
like the most recent years. Um, that book, I felt not knowing, I can look at it now as a woman of like why it really captivated my heart. But in that book, I felt so seen. I loved the story, the world building, and how it's like through a book, we can be so seen and understood and be able to be brought through to a space of like hope and understanding of something else. So I'd say that was one book that really inspired me. I started writing chapter books in third grade.
Wow.
So that was, there's a lot of creativity in this vessel.
So, as a speaker, what's the best speech that you've ever seen in your life? A transformative figure or a speech that just absolutely moved you that you remember to this day?
Yeah, there's a commencement speech of a Navy captain. I can't think like where he talks about the importance of making your bed in the morning and the anchor
I remember that.
of the feeling of accomplishment of making your bed. That speech, and thank you for recalling. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go put that on. I haven't listened to that in so long.
Yeah.
But I remember listening to that, and there's something within it that was so inspiring. He talks about an anchor somewhere in it, where I was so moved by that speech that I contemplated getting an anchor tattoo on me. Like, that's talk about leaving, no pun intended, like leaving an imprint
Uh-huh.
on me. Yeah. How about yourself?
I saw Bill Clinton at the Truman Library here, and it was unreal. When he came in the room, all the particles changed. It was like a State of the Union. Like these double doors came open. He comes flying through. It was 20 years ago, and I still remember him talking about solar panels on high rises in Brooklyn and ideas and ways of capturing green energy to
Mm.
kind of preserve what we're in right now, 20 years later. And just the whole way that he could command a room and absolutely make you enraptured by every word that came out of his mouth. I'd never ever seen anything that dynamic, and I knew going in it was going to be a great thing. But it's funny this weekend. Speaking of my stepdaughter again, I'm a huge proponent of making my bed. So she was talking about that she's doing that now too. It's a big deal, and it's like when you come home it's like there's something about it that's welcoming. There's a level of like mentality that kind of makes you feel because the days can be scattered with so many things going on. But when you come into your space, maybe it's a feng shui mentality where it's like everything can kind of feel like grounded. The compass needle makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. And that space of, I love the jump starts to like, cool, I was successful.
Yeah.
Like, cool, no matter what, I've already, cool, I got the dopamine check of like, I've done something successful. I succeeded for the day. No matter what happens, I know I accomplished something. As humans, we need to feel a sense of accomplishment
Yep.
throughout our day to make it worth keep going.
Yeah.
And I'm with you of like, I'm a big on like tidiness.
Hmm.
And not because I'm like, cool, I just want it to be clean, but I can notice the difference in my own mental state when things are ordered and like there's spaciousness that's
Yep.
available. It's like a running joke in our, in our home because we both travel, my partner and I, we travel quite a bit. And I'll, like before he comes home, I like clean up the tables real nice. And I was like, ah, then he comes home and like he's like unpacking stuff. And I was like, where's the
I know.
table? But then, like then as soon as he's like, I promise we're gonna, I'm like, I know, like, and it's just
Yeah.
a running joke, but it changes the state when this energy flow through much cleaner.
Yeah. So, what is it that motivates you to get up every day to do this work? I mean, getting into people's lives can be daunting. There's so many tributaries that go into someone's existence and it can weigh you down. But what is it that ultimately that gets you up to do this work and to evolve as a human being, to take care of your soul?
I love humans.
Yeah,
I taught a permission granted workshop last night. And the process of supporting people in understanding how we operate, really understanding, hey, we all have this vehicle that's the human body. And there's a system and a science to us understanding how it works. And we get to learn how to optimize and connect to the spiritual and bring them together. I get fired because I just genuinely love the human experience.
yeah,
Like I nerd out on it. I love supporting people and learning it and then being like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know. I'm my day-to-day life, I'm running 80 to 90% on my subconscious mind
yeah,
that was developed from ages 0 to 11." And being like, "Yeah, but fear not, because we can rewire it." And being able to witness people having the ahas and being able to bring that self-awareness of oh, I do this today because of this, and liberate themselves from it to be happy, it lights me up. I mean, it really just fires up my soul. So I woke up today so energized, so enthusiastic, where I'm just like, let's go.
yeah,
So over the years, I've learned how to not take on other people's stuff so much, of how to really hold the space for someone
yeah,
to have their process. It took a while,
yeah.
but yeah. So that doesn't drain me anymore. Now it's more of just the how many humans can we help to be able to remember what they're capable of and that we can change the inner wiring and thrive. I love it.
So if you had a dream and you could go back to that younger version of you in Jersey and give that young version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've lived, the wisdom you've gained, what advice would you impart on that young version of you?
Yeah, I think the biggest piece of advice I'd give her, knowing that I don't know she'd be able to receive it,
Yeah, sure.
understanding the process of how the human works, but I would tell her, hey, you're not going to hurt anyone, and it's really safe to shine in your gifts and talents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So of everything that you've done and more importantly evolved to at this point in your life, what are you the proudest of?
In this exact season, I'm very proud of my debut novel hitting major bookstores
Yeah,
in a week as of tomorrow. So, as of August 28th, 2025, my debut novel hitting bookstores.
yeah.
This has been a huge, dream come true writing chapter books as a kid. To know that this story can touch other people. We've done an audiobook, so getting to do the recording and the creative process that comes with that and the massive learning curve that
Yeah.
comes with doing a book launch and a book
Uh-huh.
tour.
Yeah, I get
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
So let me ask you this. Everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends,
sure.
clients, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's
Yeah.
your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Yeah. I think I'm an awakened, powerful soul who is a walking heart who genuinely loves all life, from people to plants to animals. And I'm here knowing I just want to create and serve as much as possible in this life while savoring the human experience and help other people remember that's what they're here to do as well.
So a shameless plug here. If tell everybody about your book, where to pick it up, and why they should buy your book, when it's available and where to get it.
Sure. Book She is going to be available on August 28th. It is available in all major bookstores, Barnes and Nobles in the United States, Waterstones in the UK. It's also available on Amazon, Walmart, any major online retailer. You can get it there starting August 28th. You can also get the Kindle version or the audiobook available on Audible. And yeah, this is a really great story for anyone who is wanting to see themselves through the lens of transformation and remembering and new beginnings, the art of trusting themselves. This is a really beautiful, raw story
Yeah.
where the characters are not your typical shiny characters. It's really the true human experience, down to plot twist and sex and dating and life in New York City. So, really, for anyone who's wanting to see themselves and the human experience from a new lens and be able to have a little soul stirring along the way.
So what do you love the best about living in Costa Rica, and what do you miss about America or Jersey?
Well, I'm in Florida now. I moved out of
Oh,
Costa Rica.
right. Okay, that's right. That's right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. Um, my favorite while in Costa Rica was the microclimates.
Yeah,
Waking up 15 minutes, go to the beach, 15 minutes into the deep into the jungle. Um, Definitely didn't see myself living back in the States. But that's what love and needing roots will do to you. But I do appreciate being here. I'm a tropical plant through and through.
yeah.
I go up to New York. We'll be doing quite a few events and signings up in the New York area, especially since the book takes place in New York. Um, so I have the tropical feel here and amazing community.
So if anybody wants to hire you, get your book, any of the good business questions, where do they go?
Yeah, the best place you can find everything at the Kelly Keefe, TheKellyKeefe.com. You can find everything that you need there. Feel free to just send me a ping. Same the Kelly Keefe on Instagram. Shoot me a DM. Again, I love humans. Feel free to just connect. I'm happy to chat.
Excellent. This has been wonderful, Kelly. Thank you so
Oh
much.
gosh, Joe, thank you so much.
Best of luck with the launch. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you. I appreciate you.
Thank you.